Hello again, everybody. Judy Lobianco here at the beach at the Jersey Shore. Hello. I hope everybody out there who knows me is just happy for me that I'm trying to relax. But even as I relax, I still have to babble about my profession because it's my passion, right? Wherever I go, I'm thinking about children, thinking about teachers at this very difficult time in our society and in our lives and in education. And I just want to be desperate to do everything I can to be able to help. And, if I was sitting on the beach here next to a couple of PE colleagues, that's the kind of conversation I like to have. So I'm going to have another one under the hashtag NJNextGenHPE. And today my conversation is about equity, diversity, and inclusion in health and physical education. EDI or DEI, whatever you're calling it in your schools, it's been getting a lot of attention in the past 2 years or so. When I was president of Shape America, we started to have deep conversations about how that would be the mission of our work and how we had to make sure that all children felt represented and all teachers felt represented in our profession in all ways. And now you see our national standards are being revised in physical education, and the guiding principles have a lot to do with equity, diversity, and inclusion. And it's not an accident, right? Shape America scoured the country and asked these questions of health and phys ed teachers: what do you most need? And two things came to the top: social emotional learning and equity, diversity, and inclusion. Now, when I started my career, I started out at a very diverse high school at Maplewood, New Jersey. Shout out to South Orange Maplewood Schools. And I spent my life there in a very diverse population. And I stood in front of kids in the health room at the high school and in the PE setting with kids who had English as a second language, ELL if you will, kids who had special needs. I had kids who were athletes, kids who were not so confident, kids who were obese. I had black and brown kids, I had white kids, I had Latina kids, Latinx kids. I had all walks of life in my classroom, and I was a young 20-something. I had no clue what I was doing. None. And so quickly I learned, how do you level this playing field for all children? And, it came down to, what I've talked about forever, which is relationships, right? Everybody thinks that these fancy pants words in education mean something, right? Restorative practice, trauma-informed practice. These are just fancy words that mean love every kid and see every kid, right? There's no set of instructional strategies around EDI. There is no lesson plan in EDI. There are no competencies you need to learn. I'm sorry, but there is not. And you all might be sitting there going, you're a liar. That's okay. I can lie. As long as I can lie on the beach, I'm good. I think it comes down to understanding that you've got to meet every child where they are and do the work it takes to build the relationships to find out what motivates that child, right? We're so disillusioned, I think, in education to think teachers are supposed to motivate kids. And I think that's a lie. I think what you have to do is find out what motivates kids. And I think we saw that in the pandemic, right? We got out there ahead of the pandemic, and the CDC and Shape America was recognizing in their reentry considerations, what is the student voice and choice, right? Ask kids what it is they most want to do. Ask kids what it is that most motivates them around the kinds of activities they want to actually engage in, participate in, and the topics that they most want to learn about in health. And I think that student voice is critical, right? I think it's critical. And I think it's the key to unlocking how we can become better teachers around EDI, right? When you look out at your class and you go back on your prep and you go to build lessons for your classes, you're not really building lessons in content. You're planning lessons for children. Who are the children in my 5th period volleyball class, and how can I best achieve what's best for them? And that is not the same as the volleyball class that's coming up in period 7. Those are a different set of kids. They have different needs, right? And I think that it's easy to say K through 12, think about the differentiation you do when kids are at different skill levels and you go to differentiate their learning. right? Sometimes it's a different ball, sometimes it's a different height net, sometimes they can move up the end line to be more successful. And I think EDI kind of mimics that, right? If we start to really deliberately and thoughtfully choose the worksheets we give them, the questions we ask them, the videos we are showing them, so that what we see is depicting all walks of life, I think kids will be able to say, hey, yeah, wait, someone who looks like me is in that movie, right? And I got to tell you, I think this is a work in progress. I failed years. When I started at my job at Columbia High School in health and PE, I did not know how to help every learner. And so I thought, look, I'm going to be a teacher of diversity, and I'm going to show reruns of the Oprah Winfrey Show in order to connect with my black and brown children. What? What? What was I doing? What was I doing? And I can remember the script in my mind, right? When I was teaching at the high school level. I remember this particular lesson when I was teaching the risk factors for heart disease. I can't believe I'm admitting this, but I put the risk factors up there, and I told the kids, this portrait who has a heart attack ended up coming out like, okay, a heart attack. To which all my boys were like, yeah, I'm not going to get a heart attack. I'm like, oh my God, I'm failing miserably at this. What am I doing? But you learn quickly as you get older and you get more experienced in the field, that there are so many resources out there that can help us with this. And your best teacher around how to best serve children are your children, right? That's why it's so important, the questions we ask them in the classroom. What is so wrong with asking them what they think, right? Of your instructional strategies, of the worksheets you do, of the activities they're doing. Being a stakeholder in what happens in their own classroom, right? I've come to figure out that teaching and learning, education and physical education and health and all subject areas, this is about them. This is their experience, not ours. So when we go to represent them, it's really important that we see them, right? I went to a mental health panel in New York a couple of weeks ago, sponsored by the Born This Way Foundation, shout out. And this group of millennials were on this panel, and I've come to know that millennials are aged 25 to 39. And they're on this panel, and this guy Maddox, he was amazing. And he reframed for me what we mean by trauma-informed practice. And he talked about seeing every kid and seeing past their trauma and understanding that even the word trauma has this negative connotation. And he recoined the phrase, which is an actual phrase, healing-centered engagement. I love that. I love that. I really love that. Healing-centered engagement. I got to get you to Google this. Stop the video. Go Google it. Healing-centered engagement. And there's such an incredible group of strategies around making sure that we engage in the right dialogue with kids and ask the right questions, and start with that relationship. So it's really important that when we unpack these pieces around equity, diversity, and inclusion, and we see the highlights of this work come out in journals and catalogs and TV, it's not just about, recognizing Black History Month, the Puerto Rican Day Parade, June is Pride Month. It's not these isolated, in silo types of pieces. It's about lifting up every human being, no matter who they are, who they love, or where they're from. Thank you for joining me for this episode of #NJ NextGenHPE right here at the Jersey Shore. Yay!